types of joint classification. Joint 1 is a fixed joint. A fixed joint is interlocked and it cannot move. An example of this is the cranium. If your cranium moves, then this could cause brain damage. Joint 2. This is a slightly movable joint. A slightly movable joint can perform slight movements but cannot freely move. An example of this is the vertebrae. It can move back and forth. Joint 3 is a synovial joint. Synovial joints are freely movable and can do what they want. An example of this is the hips, which is a ball and socket joint. And another example is the shoulders, which is also a ball and socket joint. There are 5 main movement terminologies. Flexion is bending the limbs at a joint. Extension is straightening the limb at the joint. There are 5 main movement terminologies. Flexion is bending the limb at a joint. Extension is straightening the limb at the joint. Abduction is moving the body part away from the midline of the body. Adduction is moving the limb towards the midline of the body. And rotation is a circular movement around a fixed joint. The first joint is the gliding joint. This is the wrist and has limited movement. A sporting example for this is flicking the wrist in a jump shot in basketball.
As well as this, another synovial joint is the hinge joint. The hinge joint is located in your knee and in your elbow. A sporting example for the hinge joint is a dig hit in volleyball. Doing a dig is also an example of extension that the hinge joint can do. Flexion occurs at the hinge joint too. An example of this is doing a bicep curl. This involves extension and flexion. A condyloid is another synovial joint. The condyloid joint is located in the wrist and in the ankle. A sporting example of this joint is dribbling the ball in basketball, which is also called pronation. Another movement used at this joint is supination. This could be serving the ball in tennis. Another synovial joint is the ball and socket joint, which you can find in your shoulders and in your hips. A sporting example is an overarm bowler bowling the ball in cricket. The movement this joint can do is abduction, which could be a batsman in cricket who is batting the ball. Abduction is only... Where did I get to? Another synovial joint is the ball and socket joint, which you can find in your shoulders and in your hips. A sporting example is an overarm bowler bowling the ball in cricket. The movements this joint can do is abduction, which could be a batsman in cricket batting the ball. Adduction is only used. This can be done by using the butterfly stroke in swimming. As well as this, another movement used by this joint is rotation. This can involve swinging the hips around in golf to make a shot. Extension is another movement. An example of this is shooting in netball, which also consists of flexion, which is used at the ball and socket joint.
Another synovial joint is a pivot. Example for a pivot is our vertebra. It can extend and flex. Sport example is when you want to catch the ball in a rugby, a high ball, you extend and flex your vertebra. Our thumb is a saddle joint. It can extend and flex. A sporting example is when you want to catch the ball, and it also can do circumduction.
The knee has lots of different parts to it. The first part is the ligaments. These attach bone to bone. The cartilage provides cushion for the bone to stop pressure. The synovial membrane is the capsule lining. This stops synovial fluid from seeping and also helps reduce synovial fluid. The synovial fluid is a liquid that lubricates the joint to help it move. The ball and socket joint has the most movement because it has a lot of synovial fluid. Therefore, the gliding joint has the least movement because there is hardly any synovial fluid.